What's up, everybody? Blessed be. My name is Mannun, and you're watching Witch in the Working, where we will be discussing all things witchy in and around, throughout and about, above, below, and beyond. So, ritual. It's a large part of what many of us do regardless of the occult system you've decided to sink your teeth into. In fact, for witchcraft, there's three major distinctions that are practiced throughout the different traditions, which basically include spellcasting, magical living, and ritual. Ritual is a major ordeal when done properly, and many witches and other occultists alike don't realize the importance of it. And not only the importance of the actions being performed, but also the importance of the transition from the mundane to the magical or mystical, so to speak. Well, in this episode of Witch in the Working, we're going to talk more about this transition and how to successfully achieve it moving forward. With this being said, roll the intro. What's up, everybody? Welcome back. So as I mentioned earlier, ritual is a major part of many occult systems, if not all of them, and is very important when it comes to living and leading a witchy lifestyle. Many occultists forgo ritual and ignore it, believe it or not, and tend to think that their practice is all about spells and bonding with their surrounding elements and magical beings. The latter of this is true. These things are very much important. However, ritual is right there in the mix and should be practiced regularly by witches. It's a way to align ourselves with the energies that we put so much time and effort into. It's one thing to talk to the gods, nature spirits, and elementals that interact with us throughout our witchy lives, but performing ritual actually helps us to interact with these beings and energies on a totally different level. You see, in many interactions we have with these energies, we're doing it on a mundane basis, which many times there can be a veil, so to speak, between ourselves and the mighty ones. Ritual, when properly prepared and executed, removes that veil and gives us direct connect with these forces, which is energizing and replenishing, spiritually and magically speaking. This rekindlement of emotion, spirituality, and balance of energy is completely beneficial for both sides of the coin in our circumstances. Performing ritual, regardless of what the subject matter is, whether it's an esbit or a sabbat or a rite of passage, whatever it may be, will bring us closer to the divine energies we so strongly seek and desire to share our energy with to achieve balance in our lives. For most witches, performing ritual and drawing the sacred circle we've all grown to know and love creates a world between the worlds. It's also a line of protection against any and all negative or astral baddies that may have been accumulating outside the circle. Thirdly, this circle is drawn, and this is mainly just in witchcraft circles, to hold and contain energy that is raised within it so that it can be properly raised, programmed, and then released at the right moment to sprint off into the universe and accomplish the witch's goals and biddings. The first thing I mentioned is one of the most important factors of the three, as the world between the worlds is where we'll be able to communicate and share emotions and energies that are so important to tie us and link us to the forces and beings that we strive to become at one with throughout our careers. I don't know why so many people skip ritual in their practice of the occult. Is it pure laziness? I think it may be just out of just not understanding how it works, or maybe unlike a spell that is attempting to bring something directly to a person and give them something mundanely, ritual, in fact, the majority of the time is put together to honor and commune with something or someone. It's a time within occult circles where we are truly not necessarily asking for something, but instead sharing and giving back with those energies and beings that we so desperately wish to be a part of. I personally believe that ritual brings balance, structure, and fulfillment to our magical lives, and when practiced on a regular basis, say at least once every 40 days, you'll absolutely and most definitely see a spiritual growth and expounded relationship with the mighty ones. A constant growing of internalized spiritual abundance, both inside and ultimately reflecting outside. As above, so below, as within, so without. I've mentioned this dozens of times. If you have a problem with a person, thing, or circumstance, not always, but many times this issue and judgment you're taking towards another is probably an outward reflection of something within you that you possess as well. I personally believe, and this is absolutely my personal opinion and my personal belief, so all of you trolls out there, keep your guns in your pockets and, chill out. I truly believe that performing ritual and sharing and giving back that energy to our gods and goddesses, spirit beings, angels, elementals, etc., is what helps us to maintain and grow our magical energies, and for lack of a better term, spell power, so to speak. What do I mean by this? Well, to break it down and put it into simple terms, being a traditional Wiccan who is given tons of energy, time, and love itself to the mighty ones, deities, and forces of nature, I've literally caught myself in working a spell, especially working a spell that is desperate in the situation. I've caught myself bargaining with the gods and literally saying, hey, look, I'm performing this spell and I need some extra zing and power to pull this one off. Now, you and I both know I've been your hidden child and have given and shared with you on so many levels and brought you worship, belief, and shared your message and understanding with thousands. Please, God and Goddess, Lord and Lady, for this one, help me out and give me some extra divine intervention to really make this spell successful. And this sounds kind of selfish to some of you. I get it. Bargaining with the gods? I mean, come on. Well, this witch from time to time will do this, and I have to say, they don't mind helping out with that extra boost of whatever it is you need from time to time. Especially when combined with the fact that the gods only help those who help themselves. So once you've asked for this assistance, as with any working, get out there and do something to help open the pathway for the magic to flow easier. So Mannun, you say, you've convinced me. It's important to do ritual and honor those we see as the mighty ones, so to speak. By the way, I know I'm gonna get asked about what do I mean when I say the mighty ones. I'll utilize this term from time to time to express and describe the gods, goddesses, elementals, angels, demons, fairy beings, ancestors, basically anyone and anything that is mystical and magical in our occult practices. It's a sort of catch-all, and again, it's my particular term that I use to wrap them up into one package. This way, whichever force or energy you decide to work with for any given circumstance, you can do so by just inserting that particular entity in place of the mighty ones. Sorry, I had to get that out of the way. So it's important to do ritual and honor from time to time. How do I do this and how do I get motivated to do so? Well, you got to want to do it. Ritual is not for everyone, but I'm telling you right now, your practice is going to benefit from it whether you want to accept this or not. As far as what to do ritually, that's up to you and your current occult system you're working with. We as Wiccans and witches will do ritual once a month on a full moon to honor the goddess, and sometimes even on a new moon to honor the goddess in her crone stage. We as Wiccans will celebrate Sabbats to honor the cycles of the seasons and to honor both the god and the goddess as they guide us through this life of twists, turns, and winding paths. There's many reasons to do ritual, and these reasons change and evolve with each occult system. For instance, what Wiccans would do for ritual is very different than what an OTO member would do, or a Freemason or Rosicrucian might do in their sacred spaces. Regardless, ritual is constructed and performed with good reason and intent. One of the things that is very important about ritual is transitioning from the mundane into the spirit world, so to speak. Again, it's said that within most every occult system's magical circle, you are in a world between the worlds, and in Wicca, we believe to actually be within the womb of the goddess. It's believed that the womb is still not in this world or the next, because when does spirit inhabit that growing child? I've known some to believe that spirit, not life, please don't confuse the two, but spirit doesn't enter the child until that first giant breath. At this point, some believe that this is when the reincarnated soul enters the physical body, born dying, awaiting for that last breath when that same soul now will exit for the cycle to wash, rinse, and repeat. There are many ways to help get your mind wrapped around and starting to enter into this frame of magic and mysticism, and one of the first things you can do that will trigger this mind frame to begin its cycles of preparation is what you wear. I know, to trigger something as of recently in the social justice warrior era has developed a sort of negative connotation, but in witchcraft, to trigger an emotion or feeling is actually a good thing. For instance, when doing a drawing down the moon ritual, there's often a certain motion, word, or sound that will trigger the invoker to enter into the mindset and clarity that he or she needs to be in order to channel a mighty one and relay any messages. Well, in preparation for a ritual within a sacred space, this same concept applies. So the reality is that anyone can just wear their mundane clothing into a circle and totally be okay with that scenario, as long as the persons leading the circle don't mind the mundane distraction of Levi jeans, Old Navy shirt, and whatever $600 sneakers or latest waste of money and craze. But for everyone in a circle to be somewhat uniform and undistracting can bring a much more consistent and successful ritual, as the concentration and overall ambiance of the circle is level. The mindset is undistracted and able to focus and dwell in a world set with magic and mystery instead of chaos and unconformity. Because of this, many covens and solitaires alike, when doing ritual practice, will wear a robe into circle. This is a simple piece of clothing, and unless elaborated with gemstones and shiny chaotic baubles, which is frowned upon, it remains undistracting and also triggers the mind for most people. That you are now about to travel to magical realms and are no longer dwelling wholly in the mundane. Other things help trigger this feeling and state of being within ritual too. For instance, incense smell and incense smoke, candle lighting, music in the background, an altar set up in the center of a room with magical items and tools strewn about it. A besom hanging in the east, awaiting its turn to come to life and cleanse the circle in the beginning stages of clearing of a ritual, for instance. All of these things come together to bring the witch or practitioner into a different mindset and state of being, ready to straddle the worlds and commune with the mighty ones. And again, donning that ritual robe or garb, it doesn't have to be a robe by the way, is one of the first things you do to begin that magical spiral into the mysterious and out of the mundane. What color robe or spiritual garb should you wear? That is completely up to you. Maybe your particular occult system dictates a specific garb and color, for instance. In many covens in Gardnerian Wicca, one of the first things new postulants are instructed to do is go out and grab some green material and make their own robe. Some come back with intricate robes, complete with fancy seams and even a hood, and others, such as myself, when I was instructed to do the same thing, just pop a hole in some fabric for your head and witch stitch the side up to hold it all together and keep the rest of your brothers and sisters in the coven from seeing your birthday suit. Witch stitch is basically a tape that can be used in lieu of sewing for those of us who don't know how to sew. Some systems of occult actually wear robes that start off somewhat plain and boring, and as a person progresses through the ranks, they receive badges and designs that make the robes more and more elaborate. Sometimes in these systems, more clothing is added as the rank increases in those systems, especially those practices with degree systems, which are usually cornered as ceremonial rites, such as the Golden Dawn or the OTO, the Ordo Templi Orientis, to name a few. But to come around full circle, regardless of the simplicity or the complexity of the garb being utilized, all still a trigger as you don that magical garb before you do anything else to enter that magical circle or sacred space. And it's not just robes and hoods and what have you. In systems, jewelry is another type of item utilized in some systems that again will act as a magical trigger for some ritual practice. Bracelets, crowns, necklaces, belts, and even rings are some jewelries or accessories that different systems will utilize. For instance, in Gardnerian traditional Wicca, it's very common for the women of the tradition to wear a special necklace around their necks, and that symbolizes a never-ending circle and a symbol of the goddess. This necklace is unique in that it cannot have a clasp, so that it's a circle with no ending and no beginning. I once had a covener recently whom I initiated and brought up through the ranks to a 3rd degree in Gardnerian Wicca, who before this journey had spent the last 20 years as an OTO lodge master. And I'll never forget what he told me, in that one of the differences between the OTO and Gardnerian Wicca is that in the OTO and other ceremonial magic systems, as you progress through the ranks, you put more and more clothes on, whereas in Gardnerian Wicca and many traditional Wiccan practices, as you progress, you take clothes off, which will segue me into this next bit of ritual garb and clothing. In many of the Wiccan and witchcraft traditions today, and yesterday for that matter, there's a concept in practice known as skyclad. Skyclad is working in ritual clad only by the sky, which translates quite simply as working in ritual naked. No robe, only maybe a necklace and a few bracelets, and maybe a cord tied around the waist as seen in some pictures of Alexandrian practice, for instance. And yes, I myself am a Gardnerian witch and have been for more than 20 years. So yes, I too practice naked while in Gardnerian circles, and have for quite a long time. I'm sorry you have to fathom that image in your mind, but it is what it is, and that's the practice I ultimately accepted and grew to love so passionately. So many of you, of course, are wondering, why skyclad? Why would you do this? Well, for 3 reasons. 1, it's traditional and always has been, in my opinion. Witchcraft depicted throughout the centuries, throughout paintings, carvings, and other art mediums have more times than not been depicted and portrayed as naked in their workings. And there's good reason for this, and it's not just a coincidence. And when Gerald Gardner was initiated into witchcraft practice in 1939, he too was stripped naked and worked skyclad from that moment going forward in his magical circles. A second reason is that there's an energy that is present and very different when working skyclad over clothed. This is something that is much more easily experienced than explained. It's a sort of primal energy that conjures up when working naked, a heat and passion that exudes from the inside out and fuels the energy and aura of the living circle unlike no other energy I've ever felt before. Again, it's much easier experienced than explained, and all I can say about this is to give it a try for yourself. You don't have to work with others to try this. You can do it alone, and it's just as powerful. Next time you do a working, spell, or ritual, if you can do it naked, give it a shot and see how it makes you feel. It's definitely not for everyone, as there are many hang-ups in this way of working in a magical practice, but also understand that most of these hang-ups are due to societal implementations and conditioning of shame and intolerance for the natural beauty of the human body. If you can get past that, you'll discover a whole new world of energy working and magic that you probably never experienced before. A third reason is because when naked, all are the same. There's no status, and everyone is bare-boned down to just who they are as a person. No shame, no hierarchy, no ego or status quo. You're just there, naked and unadorned in your rights, pure, open, and accepting. All inhibitions have been thrown out the window, leaving you in your natural state of being, your most powerful state of being. No hindrance or ego-filled delusions present. And being skyclad, you are now just in your purest form as the day the god and goddess allowed you to enter this realm naked and unadorned. And as far as I'm concerned, as I mentioned earlier, when in a circle, you're thought to be within the womb of the goddess. And when you're in a womb, you definitely are not wearing an Armani suit or Gucci this or that. Nope. You're in the purest form as the gods, naked, skyclad, pure and simple. There's actually an old art piece called The Sabbat, I believe, or Getting Ready for the Sabbat, that depicts 4 women of different caste systems in old Europe undressing for the ritual. The only reason we know they are of different caste systems is because of the headpieces that remain on their heads. But the art is very interesting as it shows that whether you were well-to-do or a peasant, in a magic witch's circle, all were considered the same under the goddess. Some people have mentioned that wearing clothes can hinder the magic that you're trying to expel, and that's why it's better to be skyclad. I absolutely call bullshit on that idea. Magic is very, very powerful, and something mere clothing isn't going to hinder that magic that we raise. I mean, for goddess sakes, this makes no sense considering we're sending this magic sometimes thousands of miles away and through brick walls to affect our target. A freaking t-shirt or robe isn't going to hinder this. I just don't think so. But anyways, another thing I'm sure many of you who are new to this concept, what goes through your heads is sex. How can these men and women be present in front of each other naked and not experiment or dabble in the area of sex? Listen, I've been doing this, working skyclad, for over 20 years, and I've never had sex with another covener outside of my ex-wife, whom I practice with too. And I've never known for a coven to ever just break into an orgy all of a sudden. It just doesn't happen. In fact, I've never even witnessed a male witch, for instance, all of a sudden become aroused and develop an erection within a skyclad circle. I've literally circled with hundreds, if not thousands of witches from all around the globe. Again, it just doesn't happen. And the other thing is, no one oogles and ogles others and stares at their nakedness and makes any kind of thing about it. I've seen all shapes and sizes of everything and many bodies within a circle, and honestly, everyone is gorgeous and pure, especially in candlelight. That warm glow just beautifies and makes the human body radiant and magical. It does take a little time to get past the nervousness in the beginning, but after a few times, you begin to get comfortable and soon begin to realize that it's the ritual and magic that takes precedence in a skyclad circle, not the naked bodies working with and around you. And for you solitaires doing this method, even easier so, as this part of the working with others isn't even a thing or a concern. So I completely recommend that everyone try this method of working. What do you have to lose? Do it by yourself. Hell, you take a shower naked by yourself with no problem. Try it out in circle. I'm telling you, it can be life-changing. And again, it's not for everyone, and whether you're working robed or skyclad, it doesn't matter. Do whatever works for you. Whatever is going to make you most comfortable within your magical workings is the style you're going to want to go with. But give both options a shot, and don't judge those of us who do work skyclad. One thing I noticed that many other occultists and witches alike will look down on those of us who work in skyclad traditions. And this is simply because you fear that which you don't understand. I say to those people, shame on you as a person and a witch. How dare you judge my practice when I'm not shoving it down your throat? You do what you do and let me do what I like to do. I'm not hurting you in any way. There's been many times I've had people, witches, approach me angry, saying I don't like or agree with Gardnerian witchcraft because you practice skyclad. I'm like, so what? Why does this make you angry? Is it because you want to practice Gardnerian too, but can't get past skyclad practice? Well, this is your issue, not mine. So I'll say it again. Don't make your ignorance my demon. Fortunately, even in Gardnerian practice, no one just goes skyclad on their first circle night. We have a system that eases a person into working skyclad, that has a postulant practicing robed with his or her coveners for up to a year and a day, and sometimes longer. Anyone who works skyclad on their first skyclad evening has worked with and is very close and knows their fellow witches very well. This person has built an amazing trust between themselves and the others. This totally helps with that transition, and to be honest, I've never known a postulant to go through their entire robed pagan training and on their skyclad initiation night back out because of being naked. Now, over and over again, I do get from these newly initiated Gardnerian witches, how could I have practiced any other way? By the time it's all said and done and they have a few inner court circles under their belts, all becomes comfortable moving forward. Well, that is going to wrap up this episode of Witch in the Working. How do you practice when you have a circle, whether solitaire or with a coven? Do you wear a ritual garb or some sorts, or do you work skyclad? Try working skyclad once and let us all know in the comments below how it made you feel. Please, if you like this channel and my content, hit that subscribe button and ring that little bell to be reminded of future episodes to come. I love you guys and gals. Until next time, blessed be.